thing that I seen on my feed that was called Soulslikes versus Pure Action. And it's crazy because I recorded a video already that was talking about this similar the topic. I swear your devices be listening to you. I recorded it over playing Ninja Gaiden because I had a feeling in my head. I was like, I really enjoy Ninja Gaiden, and I feel like it's something special about these hack and slash, just pure straight up action games where you're not having to always focus on parries and always focus on like your timing of like literally everything outside of just the combos, where it just feels special. It just feels engaging in its own right. It's something just so captivating about being able to turn the game on and just play it, just not worry about the best build, the best whatever. Just get your skills, get your combos, fucking play the game. So that's one of the main aspects is why I've really been enjoying Ninja Gaiden 4. If this becomes a YouTube video, I don't know. I don't know if the other video that I recorded already kind of speaking about the topic will be out already, or if we'll just put this reaction video out first and then maybe do the other one. I don't know, because I kind of rambled on a lot in that other video. Again, talked about this stuff without watching this video first. So that's what I want to do. I want to react to this video, Soulslikes versus Pure Action, and see what they have to say. I'm gonna pre-fire the like I usually do. Let's turn the music off here and let's get into it. I'm gonna try my best to talk every now and then, just whatever sparks my mind, but I'm really on like a time crunch and I want to get a good session in with Outer Worlds 2. And if I can't get a good session in, oh well, I'll migrate it to like a later stream tonight, because I will be available a little bit later on tonight. But if I can help it, I want to try to fit in a good, decent chunk in right now. So with that being said, Soulslikes versus Pure Action and the parry problem.
On January 23rd, Microsoft, Koei Tecmo, and Team Ninja shadow dropped Ninja Gaiden 2 Black, a visual remake of Ninja Gaiden 2 that combined elements of both the—
Was it 2? I thought they redid the first and second game.
vanilla release of the game, which launched in 2008 on the Xbox 360, and the Sigma version, which released on the PlayStation 3 a year later. The differences between the versions is a whole separate can of worms that I'm not going to get into in this video, because it's not the subject here. The subject is the simple fact that, even in spite of its clear changes and removal of some content, Ninja Gaiden 2 Black is still a very slick, fun, and gratifying game to play at a basic, foundational level. I just feel like when you're playing a game, again, that's just so focused on, we're here to just have fun. You're just there to just, you know, just hack and slash, play the game that way, and you're not so damn hyper focused on, well, I gotta parry everything, I gotta do this or that. Like, everything has been trying to be Souls-likes for so long, and that's its own subcategory of action games. And don't get me wrong, those are fun in its own right, but holy shit, man, it's such an overabundance of just mediocre fucking games that aren't doing it justice. It's really annoying. But yeah, I come from the generation of not always even understanding what the genre of games were. I just grew up playing fucking games, and I was like, yeah, this is fun. And then that's what I did. I would just play the game, and I didn't know if it was an FPS. I mean, obviously, I feel like when I turned like 15, 16 was when I started to actually understand the genres, and then I started to see more of the community discourse online about like, oh, nobody likes Muso games. You're just pressing the same buttons over and over. You're just doing this over and over. And it's like, yeah, no shit. You press the same. It depends on the game that you're playing, but every single game that you play, you're pressing the same buttons over and over. Why is that a topic of discussion when that is why is that a topic that's brought up in a debative discussion about what makes an action game boring, or it's not fun, or it's not enough like that's a different topic to say it's not enough combos. I feel like I could do more in the game versus just, well, you're just pressing the same things over and over. It's just nuance. Well, no shit. If you're playing, you know, people love to say like, you don't press the same shit in like any other gaming style, but you do. If you're playing FPS game, if you're playing on controller, you're still pressing the same up key and you're shooting. And what is it more dynamic because you're playing against other people online and you have to react differently? Okay, but you're still pressing the same buttons. You're doing the same action over and over in hopes to win. Are you using your brain in a way to try and trump your enemy? Sure, but in the action game sense, usually they're tracking your style points, your cool points. You look at Devil May Cry, Ninja Gaiden, they don't want you to keep on ending the same encounter the exact same way over and over and over and over and over again. So there's a right and a wrong way to try to come at that topic, that discussion over what makes a game boring or not engaging or what. Like, I just hate that so many people, when I was growing up, would say these games aren't fun. But it was like before that, people were just playing games. You pick up a game, you enjoy it, whatever. You might see a little bit of a discourse or some of the reviews in a Game Informer magazine or another gaming news magazine. But it feels like as soon as the internet started to really fucking pop off, all you start to hear is either the minority with big voices in these YouTube channels, or you start to just have Twitter just absolutely fuck feed all the negativity towards a genre, and it brings it down. You got people hating on Ninja Gaiden 4 right now, talking about Xbox should have just kept the whole series dead. Nobody wants another game from Team Ninja. Nobody needs another game from this thing or that. Like, this is why we can't have nice shit anymore. I don't know. That's just me, man. It just ticks me off. I miss the times of just being able to queue into a game and just fucking have fun, you know? Like, people love to say that there are games out now that you can still do that in, and yeah, there are. But the net average is you get on a game, everybody's trying to find out the most optimized way to level up, everybody's trying to find the most optimized way to get this combo, who's gonna do this thing. Even the content around games are different. Nobody's really sitting there, unless you have an established fan base or you're like me, you try to do a variety of different things. Nobody's really sitting there watching you play through a whole game, or they're trying to look at how to beat just this one level or anything. Like, yeah, there's some creators out there, but they're not really full-blown creators. Like, there are videos out there where people are just posting stuff on how to get through this level or this hard encounter. But the majority of people is just like, best tips to do this, best combo to get first. Even if it's not a competitive game, it's just like, I could look up Ninja Gaiden 4 videos right now on YouTube and it'll just say something like tips and tricks, like that. Those have always been a thing, but now it's like geared differently towards acting as if everything is a meta, or like, oh, this is the best weapon, then this is how you get this weapon earlier on, or what. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know if it's just me. But I'm so damn tired of all the bullshit, man. I feel like it's so much stuff surrounding. It's like shifting through a crowd of noise. I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
Vanilla game back for the Xbox 360 way back in the day and loved it then. But this visually upgraded re-release on Unreal Engine 5 just proves that its controls and overall gameplay loop hasn't aged a day. Just the simple act of controlling Ryu Hayabusa and slicing down enemies that turn into gore fountains is amazing. The moves you can pull off and the way he's animated just makes you feel like a badass, even if you're not being completely efficient. I'm not the only one who feels this way either. When 2 Black released and new and old fans alike played the game, social media was pretty quickly flooded with one simple question. Why aren't there more games like Ninja Gaiden, or other pure action games like Devil May Cry, also called character action games?
Because people started hating. It was literally an entire genre shift and an entire industry pushback on hack and slash games, and how hack and slash games are boring and you're just pressing the same stuff over and over again. It's like, so fucking what? Every game you're pressing the same stuff over and over. Who gives a shit? Who really cares, bro? Who gives a damn? If it's fun, cool. Maybe you just suck at the game. Use different weapons.
find a way to mix this combo into the air combo, and it's no different than playing a fucking fighting game. For real, a lot of these hack and slash games are not just one dimensional. It's like it starts off maybe the first couple hours as a one dimensional game that has a lot of nuance in the combo variety, but that gap gets really stretched out the more you play these types of games, because they're always giving you new weapons, always giving you ways to upgrade your character, always giving you ways to look cool, always giving you ways to just use environmental structures. There's always something to add to the next level of these action games, but people just don't want them. It's not just like, okay, Elden Ring popped off 2017, 2018, and now everybody wants to make a Souls-like. It's like that decline in action games has been going down for a long time, and I personally feel like it was going down probably since 2013, 2014.
And why has every developer or publisher instead decided to make or fund Soulslikes the last several years? It's a pretty valid question to ask, and even though
it's the same thing where people are just chasing the genre. They're genre chasing, genre hopping. Everybody wants to have a battle pass now, and damn near everything has a battle pass. We've seen the entire market shift go from loot crates, and loot crates was a really big thing from Destiny to freaking Call of Duty. There's a lot of CODs out there that have loot crates in them, to Overwatch, and every genre of games started having loot crates in them, right? People started getting frustrated with that after Fortnite proved to people, maybe we just do a battle pass system. Got rid of loot crates. Now we got battle passes, unlockables. Now it's like, okay, you got to pay $50 for a skin. I'm looking at you, Valorant. I'm looking at you, not Siege, CSGO. Like, people have now new ways of monetization, and it's in everything now. Everything seems to have a battle pass, and if it doesn't, people are like, something's missing. I need a battle pass in it. Like, oh my gosh, bro, that shit, it just pisses me off, because if you put them in front of a game that's not even 10 years old, that's not that long ago. 10 years is really not that long ago, right? You place them in front of a game 10 years ago, they're gonna be like, there's going to be one or two people. They're either going to say it's super fucking dated and they need more stuff to continue your progression in the game, or they're going to say this game is fucking fun as hell, and they're not going to even remember that there's no battle pass in it, or there's no loot crates, or there's no other ulterior forms of progression. I think progression in the game is fun when it's roped in a way that makes sense thematically within the game. Ryu Hayabusa getting upgrades from progressing in the game and getting new weapons, and Dante getting new weapons from the enemies he's defeating in the areas that he's going into, and literally being a trained, battle-hardened fucking warrior, demon slayer, whatever, and them adapting to their environments and their enemies by learning new skills to get and better overcome those obstacles makes sense for those characters and the worlds that they exist in. It does not have to have a progression system where it's, oh yeah, we just get a loot crate. Now, it makes sense depending on the game, right? Does a battle pass system make sense for Fortnite? Yes. Does a battle pass system make sense for COD? Yes. But it made sense and it worked perfectly without it. Which proves my point that they had progression that made sense. You leveled up in COD, you got weapons in COD, that's it. But people fucking ruined the grind. We had map packs. They was, oh my gosh, I could go on and on and on and on. Y'all can say unk in the comments all the fuck you want. But genuinely, progression is the most fun when it's roped in a way that thematically makes sense within the world that it exists in.
I do love Soulslikes. I find myself asking it too.
For the majority of
games
games
like Ninja Gaiden, Devil May Cry, God Hand, etc. have been.
My point in saying all that is the fact that when Fortnite came out, everybody wanted to have a battle pass, and now it's there. It's like the industry standard of ways to show progression in the game, right? Especially live service games. Then you look at the Souls genre. They're genre hopping. everybody wanted to put a parry system in their game when Sekiro came out. And nobody's games feel as tightly niched and well polished because their whole game doesn't focus on it. You know, Sekiro's entire combat system revolves around posture and countering and parrying. Whereas a lot of other games just have it as an option and they try to encourage you to do it over dodging or something. And they give you cool things, cool animations for parrying, sure. But it never feels as good because their entire combat system isn't focused around it. And the developers out there that have tried to mimic the posture system fail horrendously because they don't actually want to spend the time to understand the nuances of what makes the game work. They're just like, yeah, let's put this system in our game and just hope people enjoy it. They're just genre hopping. Their businessmen or investors are putting pressure on these businesses, these companies, these developers, so they could then see what makes more money. They see it's working over there and they want to apply it over here. I mean, you see it in every business, sure, to a certain degree, but it's like it's taken the entire industry by absolute storm. It's literally mayhem. There's this new Souls game or Soulslike coming out all the time, and then you have games out there that's like, well, no, we're not Soulslike, we're just action RPG. Okay, you're an action RPG that borrows almost all the fundamentals of the Souls genre, so you're a Soulslike. So you can market it any other way you want, but from camera angle to leveling up progression system to the way that enemies work to the dodging system to the way that you interact with them and how quickly you can do stuff, and it's not as combat focused, it's more reactivity focused. Like a lot of these new action games is reactive focused. Look at Souls games, right? Souls games are reactive focused. You dodge, you hit, you dodge, look at your stamina. These action games back in the day, there's no fucking stamina bar. There's no stamina bar, bro. It's just pure action, react, and you have parries, you have combos, you have dodges. Like, I hope I'm making sense and I'm not just rambling to ramble. I got lots of things going on in my head right now, and I'm just trying to get it out and articulate myself. But they're just genre hopping because it works and it worked before. But you're not From Software. You're not this studio. So unless you decide to interview and like take real lessons from these devs that are geniuses in game and level design, your game is not going to hit the same. It's just not. So you got to compensate either within the story or something else. And then people just say it's a different experience, but it's still a Souls-like. Just make a good action game again.
Been around for way longer, and we still do get some great games occasionally, like Hi-Fi Rush. And there seems to be a bit of a movement of big action games coming from China, as well as some promising indie games. So maybe we won't be having this whole conversation for much longer anyway. But as of right this very moment, there is a distinct lack of games trying to capitalize on the ideas presented from the pure action games back from the mid-2000s to mid-2010s.
Yep.
At one point around 2005 or so, they were pretty popular, because that's when Ninja Gaiden Black, Devil May Cry 3, and God of War all
I was just about to say God of
proximity.
War. And the thing about God of War that I learned from playing that on my other channel, because I played through the entire first game on my other channel, because I had never played that until last year, or this year, excuse me. God of War was initially going to be a Devil May Cry spinoff or some shit like that. And they ended up turning it into God of War. Like, it initially started off as a Devil May Cry game. And then they was like, nah, we're just going to make it God of War.
But even after that, this particular type of action game...
But then you look at the new God of War games, and it's still action. And it is still action, but it's very, like, toned down. And it's more story narrative focused now.
...was still confined to a few key studios who contributed the most to it, such as Capcom, Team Ninja, and especially Platinum Games. Even though most of these games were fairly successful.
Which is crazy, because Platinum Games is the most known for fucking Pokemon shit, bro. It's, oh my gosh.
Had very loyal fans who would play anything remotely similar. The genre never truly blew up and sparked a huge trend that a ton of other studios followed. But after From Software came along and released...
I disagree, because, what was it? Not Wrath of the... is it Asura? I think it is Ashura's Wrath. Ashura's Wrath, God of War, Devil May Cry, and Ninja Gaiden. All of those IPs sparked massive influence in the action RPG / just straight action adventure games genres, and people loved those, and they borrowed aspects of them for years to come. But gaming and news media journalism was not nearly as big as it is now. So when you have a massive success from back in the day and compare it with a massive success from today, what you see is an overexposure of it in today's time period versus magazines in the one-off videos or trailers like discussing it, whereas like every YouTuber is a reviewer now. Every YouTuber is getting the game early. Every YouTuber is finding tips and tricks to fucking dumpster dive or fucking get early access into a GameStop or some dumb shit. Like everybody is doing something just to one up their competition, so you're seeing an abundance of it, and then they're overhyping it. So it's a lot different. It's much more different when it comes to the level of exposure that these games are given, because there are tons of really good action games from back in the day, and lots of games had tons of influence. I mean, just getting away from the action game side, if I was to relate that to looter shooters, the entire reason you have Destiny is because of Borderlands coming out first. Borderlands literally was a genre shifting moment in gaming in entirety. We have Destiny now from Borderlands. If you enjoy Destiny, odds are you're probably going to enjoy the first Borderlands at bare minimum, or the second game. And if you don't enjoy those games, oh well. Destiny came out after, so they improved upon systems. Helldivers, literally any type of looter shooter came from the influence of Gearbox putting out Borderlands. So there's always been games out there that has had massive influence, but not as much exposure as it does now.
Successful games across 6 years with Demon Souls, Dark Souls, Dark Souls 2, and Bloodborne, suddenly everyone wanted a piece. In fact, some of the early imitators even started development before Dark Souls 2 even came out. And now, in 2025, Soulslike is its own subgenre, and it's already pretty stuffed. What's disappointing, though, is that in spite of how many Soulslikes there are now, very few of them actually reach the level of quality put out by From Software.
And the thing about Souls games is they're just really fun RPGs. So instead of focusing so heavily on being a Souls-like, just focus on being a good action RPG. But so many games are just trying to copy the identity of Souls instead of just trying to use what Souls was inspired from. Why don't you just go to the source of it all?
Many developers in the last...
Like, I remember talking to buddies of mine about this, about how the entire way that the Souls format looked back in the day, even still today, with on the bottom left-hand side of the screen, you have your items and it can circle in rotation. I was like, this looks like an old computer game. Like, I can't really put my hand on it, but it just reminds me of like old RPG computer games that I would play, just various whatevers on old desktops. And they was like, I don't really know what you're talking about, but like I knew just looking at it, like it had an RPG fantasy identity just first time laying eyes on it. So just go back to what they found inspiration from to make the Souls games in the first place. Yeah, they innovated and made something new, sure, and you can take aspects of their games, but people are taking their whole identity, bro.
10 years tried or are trying to make their own Soulslikes, yet hardly any are even as good as Demon Souls, the first real Souls game. If anything, that should be
Demons, souls.
assigned to try something else. So why not a pure action game without all those RPG elements to worry about? It's not like pure action hasn't been done at various levels of budget, from indies to AAA. So what's the holdup?
True.
Well, the answer for why there isn't more is pretty straightforward and obvious. Good and deep action gameplay is really hard to make and get right.
I disagree. You look at Ninja Gaiden, or you like, so even Hi-Fi Rush, right? There's a literal grading system for not only that not only encourages you to use different moves, use different weapons, it encourages you to not use the same moves over and over again in sequence, just to like spam. It kind of gives you like bragging rights to try to get a higher thing. The higher your score and the more points you usually get at the end of the encounter. Maybe give somebody an actual move list, and add, if you look at something like Devil May Cry, there's like timing into doing certain moves where you have to like press square, wait like half a second, press square and then triangle again, or shit like that. That's cool, bro. That's fucking cool. Like,
For example,
I don't know.
Let's do a quick, basic mechanical comparison between the two subgenres. There's a ton of weapons in Elden Ring, sure, but how many different types of physical attacks are there really? A one-handed and two-handed light attack, which can go up to a 2 or 3 hit string.
Yep.
A one-handed and two-handed heavy attack, which may also go up to a 2 or 3 hit string. A jumping attack, a rolling attack, a sprinting attack, a riposte, a backstab, and maybe a dual-wielding attack of some sort that's shared between
I don't know if he covered jump attack, but sometimes there's one of those as well.
multiple weapon types.
And then like a running attack. I don't know. He covered
That's
that too.
Pretty much it. In terms of functionality,
A running and jump attack, and then like a special attack,
you can make a fully fledged
like a weapon unique attack. When I say special attack,
weapon moveset with this checklist. Someone at FromSoft could maybe knock this out in a few days, perhaps even just one, because these are all the moves you're given for any single weapon, and there's no real way to do a true, uninterruptible combo between them. You can't seamlessly transition from one into the
bro.
other.
That move he's doing is gas.
A rolling attack and then canceling
Never even seen somebody do that.
That's not a natural combo. An enemy can dodge or block between each hit.
Hey.
The game is pretty strict with how attacks work. Outside of natural strings, they're all isolated from each other and have very clear startup, active, and recovery frames, with no canceling into one another. That's a mechanical hurdle these games typically just avoid. You can do block canceling and weird stuff like crouch canceling, but that tech is best used for PvP. There's no real need to whip that stuff out in single player. Conversely, how many attacks
Or co-op.
are in a
Single
game
player
like
or co-op.
Devil May Cry, and how many combos are there per weapon? And I'm talking about every unique sequence.
But it's fun. Is it not fun to y'all to learn that shit? Did I just grow up differently or something? Another fucking banger, Onimusha, bro. I grew up playing Onimusha. 1, 2 was fucking classics, bro. I'm excited for this new one coming out.
A list that could take hours.
I'm a little upset though, because the new one looks like they're copying some elements of Souls. I just want them to go back to making a good pure action game, bro. Leave Souls to Souls, and just, it's fine that we have a Souls-like genre. It's fine that you guys classify the Soulsborns as Soulsborne genre. But please, let's get back to the action games, bro. I remember having so much fun just getting on the game, just fucking playing. Sometimes you want to do a simple ass string of combos, and that's fine. I think a really good example would be something like, I know this game was fucking memed into the ground, but the combat was genuinely fun in this game. Forspoken was a modern iteration of that. It was lots of stuff that you could do within the game for your combat, and you could chain things together, and it looked really fucking cool. It just suffered in the story department, and it had nothing going on in its actual world, so it was boring to play.
But if you was to sit somebody and tell them, play the demo of Forspoken, they would be excited for the full game because the demo was more focused on the combat and a very isolated amount of story elements that you had to do. Like, you had some side shit to do, but you would expect, like, oh, the game's not fully fleshed out, it's a demo, I'm not expecting to travel around and do too much. The problem is that the full game felt like a demo still. But the combat has always felt fleshed out. Forspoken is a very good example of how to modernize the action adventure RPG style. Just because it's RPG doesn't mean that every element has to be RPG to the fucking T. I love RPGs. I'm about to play Outer Worlds 2 after reacting to this video, but not every action game needs to be like that and I say Outer Worlds because that's an adventure RPG, and it's very immersive. It's supposed to be like an immersive game, right? Similar to Fallout and other games of that nature. But you look at that for Dark Souls in the Souls-like genres, you gotta look at tweaking your health, you gotta tweak your endurance, you gotta tweak your faith, you gotta tweak your luck, you gotta tweak literally every aspect of your build, dexterity, strength. You go on and on and on. Whatever the video game is that you're playing, whatever those skills and subsections are, just substitute what I'm saying for that. But you don't have to do that. And I'm not saying that's a problem. What I'm saying is that you don't have to do that in Forspoken. You don't have to do that in Devil May Cry. You don't have to do that in Onimusha. You don't have to do that in Ninja Gaiden. There's items that you can collect that will automatically level up your health. If it encourages you to explore a little bit and see if you can find these little secrets or do these side missions to give you that little extra oomph in your devil meter, in your devil trigger gauge, in your health gauge, in whatever it is gauge that you want to increase. There are items out there to do it, whether you're equipping them or you're using a consumable or you're literally just going around the world in your small little maps, and some of them big, and it encourages exploration, and you end up finding unique enemies in that as well. So it also encourages unique encounters
to make, and many moves have a very specific gameplay purpose too, whether it's to interrupt enemy attacks, stun them, parry them, launch them into the air, or for extending combos, keeping yourself in the air, or repositioning.
Yeah, I love the aspect of Ninja Gaiden. Like, I've been learning in Ninja Gaiden 4, right? I can't remember from the top of my head if this is a mechanic in every Ninja Gaiden game, but in Ninja Gaiden 4, I'll just say that because it's the most fresh on my mind, there's two separate parry mechanics. There's perfect blocking, which is what most people would think of a perfect, like a parry. You block at the exact moment in time that they're right about to hit you. It's like a half a frame off, maybe like 1 frame on the dot. You can see their attack, their sword, basically touching your fucking character's hitbox, and then you block. And it kind of blasts them back a little bit, stun locks them just a little bit, just a tiny, itsy tiny bit, gives you a window of opportunity to counterattack. That's what most people would think is a parry. You're parrying them, they get knocked back a little bit, it gives you opportunity to make a comeback, a counterattack, if your character has the unlocked abilities to do so. However, there's a second way, and that's attacking at the exact same time that they attack. Ninja Gaiden 4 is a prime example. They have both of those features within the game. If you use an attack at the exact same moment, or time it that your sword is hitting the enemy, the time that they are whipping out their sword for an attack, it clashes, and that counts as a parry. In fact, they count that as a parry in the game versus the perfect block just being a perfect block deflection. So you can redefine what a parry is in your game. Devil May Cry has stuff like that too. Devil May Cry has things like that too, where you can attack at the exact same time as another opponent about to hit you or something, and it knocks them back, and you're given an opportunity, if you have the correct skills or you've leveled up your weapons enough, to make a counter attack from that. It's just so much more nuance in the how that you play versus I'm just gonna keep on pressing square, I'm just gonna keep on pressing X, I'm just gonna keep on pressing Y or triangle or whatever it is your moveset is. and you're not actually adding any flair to it.
Creating or closing space, many moves have a very specific purpose on top of dealing damage that need to consistently function. Not only is it a huge mechanical task, it's a huge animation one too, because attack animations with Rebellion are not going to look the same as animations with Cerberus, or in Ninja Gaiden's case, attacks with the Dragon Sword are not going to look the same as attacks with the Tonfa. There's a lot of animation reuse across weapons in Elden Ring and the Souls games as a whole, because there's distinct weapon classes, and the main differences between all weapons in one class is mostly their
I dare say that this style of game has fell so far out of the mainstream media that if you were to place somebody in front of it, it feels so foreign to them to actually relearn how to play something like this.
Statistics.
And they're gonna get in front of it and they're gonna see the lock-on system and they're gonna be like, damn, this shit feels weird.
Moveset, though moveset can be important depending on what you're looking for. Souls games are not pure action. Every weapon isn't supposed to have their own bespoke animations and functions. That's not the kind of variety these games go for. Instead, they aim for build variety and enemy variety, so the player can come
more
up
RPG
with different
focused,
strategies to the same problem. Whether it's
more like JRPG focused, or in a sense,
bashing the enemy in the head with the biggest stick they
and in fact, actually, that's exactly what it is, because technically, pretty much every game that you play is an RPG, because RPG is just role-playing game. You're role-playing when you play Call of Duty. You're role-playing when you play Elden Ring. You're role-playing when you play Dark Souls. You're role-playing when you play Mario. You're role-playing basically any game is a role-playing game except like fucking chess and goddamn solitaire or some shit. Maybe even Balatro, you know, like that could be role-playing. But there are different categories of role-playing games. The JRPG genre is the one that's really the most popular. When people think RPG, that's what they think, because JRPGs is like, oh, you're leveling up your health, your stamina, your magic, you're making builds, you can do stuff for your damage of your strength and your endurance and then your magic and your faith and your luck and your charisma and like all of that. That's very JRPG centric. Whereas the other spectrum of leveling up lots of those things is like Fallout New Vegas, Fallout 3, where you have things that you're still leveling up, but it's just the simple action of leveling things up and incrementally getting better through level ups, and you're placing which attribute points go where. That's where you get to like the more Western view of RPG. Like, it's not nearly as in-depth and nuanced as a JRPG. JRPGs usually have extra fucking layers of shit, but we're in a day and age where every game is borrowing elements from each other, so you know, you could say RPG and just encapsulate the entire genre of RPG. You're role-playing and you are leveling up things and you're attributing points to different stuff when you're leveling up, you're skill allocating and shit like that. So it's not like every RPG is bad. That's not what anybody is saying. It's just saying that sometimes if you're just playing a game for action games, it's okay to not have that in it.
can find, exploiting elemental weaknesses from
That's what Elden Ring is. That's what Dark Souls is. It's more on From Software is a literal Japanese company. So, of course, it would make sense that a lot of their elements come from the Japanese role-playing game side of the spectrum.
Or just getting naked and rolling. There's a reason why challenge runs are a big thing. These games are very conducive to them, because it's about what you put on your character and not about the crazy shit you can make them do with a high amount of actions per minute.
Yeah, that's very true.
That's what the pure action games are about, and that's why they're harder to design. They need way more fine-tuning to get right, or you'll end up with Devil May Cry.
Yeah, and you also need to have really good animations.
2 instead of 3. And no developer wants that. Any studio that doesn't have either the passion or the prior experience making this type of game is typically unwilling to try, because it's a big task, especially for a genre that's still pretty niche. And I know that's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, because if more devs took the chance to make pure action games, then the genre might be more popular. But, as of right now, pure action games aren't exactly setting sales records. Even Devil May Cry 5...
You know what's crazy? Is I find that Kingdom Hearts is more of an action RPG as well than like fucking Dark Souls. Like it follows suits more in line with a Ninja Gaiden than a Dark Souls. Kingdom Hearts, bro. If Square Enix can do it, I swear Square Enix has been killing it with RPG or like really fine-tuned JRPGs, and just like they can do the action shit. They could. Kingdom Hearts is like that. It's a good hybrid. I mean, they got that Final Fantasy identity down, bro.
Biggest out of all of them, just barely hit the 10 million sales mark after being out for 6 years. Elden Ring hit that number in just 2 or 3 weeks. Some people want to be pretty dramatic and pretend there's some secret, shadowy game developer cabal that's out to make action games homogenous in some grand, sinister scheme. But it's not.
Bro,
like
that shit is so annoying. Like, I'm unrelated to what he's talking about. That shit gets so annoying where you have people that's literally shooting at you and you have to like try and just get around literally everything, killing the enemies, and then also trying to prioritize the people that's shooting at you.
The boring, straightforward reason is that it's really fucking hard to make.
Bayonetta is another just straight up action game, bro.
Good, pure action games. And Soulslikes are just on fire right now. But again, China and the indie scene are both trying to pick up the action game slack. So maybe this conversation will be very different in 2 or 3 years. And speaking of homogeneity, there's one specific game mechanic that's become somewhat controversial among a particular group of action game players recently: parrying. Basically, every action game that's come out in the last several years has
since
parrying
Sekiro
in some form or another.
Since Sekiro.
And some of them even make the move the centerpiece of the combat loop.
Since
As a
Sekiro.
result, there's an increasing concern that parrying is making action games very formulaic and in some cases too forgiving. At first, I thought this complaint was kind of ridiculous, but after thinking back on all the action games I've played in the last several years...
Like, what happened to just blocking? Now it feels like in any modern game that's action-focused, blocking is like, yeah, it's cool, but you're going to lose health anyway. What happened to just blocking and letting that just be a viable option?
There is some validity to this concern.
And just, like, good old dodges.
However, I still believe it's partially poisoned by excessive panic in some respects. So, why has parrying become so common? Again, there's no industry-wide conspiracy. The real reasons are pretty straightforward. The first and most obvious one, parrying is cool. Parrying in an action game...
It is cool. Don't get me wrong, it is cool, and it's very... It's like it hits a dopamine spike in your brain because it feels very rewarding to hit a really nice parry in the middle of a combo string. Like you're in the middle of doing like some cool ass shit, and then the enemy is able to power through your attack, and you're like, nah, fucking psych, bullshit, and then boom, you parry that shit and into a cooler fucking combo, into like a finisher, yeah, or to a powered up version of an attack. That's cool as shit. But it's a problem when it's made to feel like that's the only option.
Looks cool and makes you feel cool, and that's a primary concern for many people who play these types of games. They want to look and feel like badasses. If any game genre would be correct to prioritize...
I also think a lot of it has to do with the modern market of content, because if you're parrying a lot, then people might notice you for that. And you're like, oh, bro, the dude never gets hit from like, he's always parrying shit. He parries everything. Or you're gonna post a video where you're just parrying everything. Nobody's gonna post a video of if parrying is in the game. They're just like, yeah, man, I block everything. No, I mean, it's just an untouchable run. It's whatever. But then you could just do a run. I was like, yeah, I dodge everything. I miss just perfect dodges and just blocking. If parrying is in the game, I'm gonna use it.
The rule of cool, it's pure
I'm gonna use it.
Like these.
I don't think it ruins a game. And in my argument that I made in the video that I made about it, which is
way less structured than this, because again, I don't know, maybe I'll just let you guys see the video that I made like on stream or something. But in my perspective, it's not so much parrying in itself, or even an abundance of the parrying mechanic in a game that ruins it. I feel like there's too much of chasing this extra genre piece in the action side versus it just being like simple, let's play the game, let's just fucking get on hack and slash or combo centric games and let's just have fucking fun.
Parrying is probably the easiest way to get that done.
Like, people love to put in a lot of extra inputs to make their combos look a certain way. And again, they always have something to say, being like, "Oh, well, you're not even doing that much. You just press square like 3 times and he does this really awesome looking animation."
After that would be the second most common mechanic of perfect dodges, as seen in Bayonetta and Final Fantasy XVI. Both mechanics have resemblances, specifically being timing based, which seems to be the crux of many people's issue with them. Both parrying and perfect dodges are very powerful equalizers that allow you to totally bypass combat interactions after some practice. But the enemy throwing out an attack for you to parry or dodge usually is...
That does piss me off. I am really tired of enemies outside of like pure bosses. I really hate the trope of just blatant regular ass enemies that can just throw out unblockables or stuff that you can't dodge. And I feel like that wasn't really a thing until fucking Sekiro. Like, they even copied the whole, it's gonna get a red marker for these types of attacks in a symbol to let you know what type of attacks you can dodge, jump into, outright block, or are they unblockable. You have to break their guard before something. Like Ninja Gaiden 4 suffers from this, where you have to break their guard using a powered up version of an attack in your Blood Raven form before their attack hits, or it's going to do really big damage to you. And that damage scales really fucking fast in Ninja Gaiden 4.
It's meant to be the interaction. This is a topic that might warrant it.
Like, I don't like them forcing those interactions unless it's a boss. I'm okay if you're trying to make a boss more difficult and like get the player, or punishing the player for not really fine-tuning their skills and learning a mechanic, but I don't feel like it should be forced on a player outside of boss fight interactions.
Own video, but
and on that note, not every boss should have it. It feels like a lot of bosses are like very samey in a sense, and I also get really tired of the trope of the way that we make bosses harder is just by making them faster.
Learned from watching or reading
fast enough that you can't even react. It's really fucking stupid.
Design goals of their game is that there's things they don't want to challenge the player on because it would detract from what they do want to challenge the player on. And if they want to challenge the player's ability to perform timing-based maneuvers, then that's their prerogative. Furthermore, if you get good enough at almost any game, you can completely skip interactions anyway. This isn't a phenomenon limited to pure action games. Even turn-based RPGs let you take advantage of weaknesses and status effects.
You know, he makes a good point. I was trying to think about it when he kept saying, he repeated over and over, you can skip certain interactions. I think I know what he means, because there are literally certain games where if you continue to parry enemies, they're not even able to get their moveset off.
Potentially nuke bosses so fast you don't even see half of their...
And then a lot of them, the times, they also get parried and allow your character to do... If usually there's a skill that's associated to your parries. If it's not a Souls-like game and it's just like an action game, there's usually a skill associated to parrying that you can then get an upgrade at some point that allows you to do like 1.5x damage from after a parry, or once you counter attack, you do extra damage for a certain period of time or something. So then you end up doing, like, you end up being the boss that the boss has to then overcome, basically.
Attack potentially nuke bosses so fast you don't even see half of their attacks, even if it's your first time playing. In some cases, there's options to one-shot bosses, such as Final Fantasy letting you kill zombie enemies instantly by throwing a phoenix down or casting life on them. High or even just above average level play.
But that's cool though. That is a story implementation or implication of a mechanic that makes sense to be in the game. You kill a zombie, quote unquote, kill a zombie by casting life on it, then making it not undead anymore. That makes sense. If you have a mechanic in your game that's broken, but it actually makes sense within the world that it exists in, I'm okay with that. The same way that water type Pokemon are affected heavier by rock types, or vice versa, or whatever, right? Or you could use wind style on certain Pokemon, or like shit like that makes sense. It just makes sense because within the world that it exists in, yeah, what's the problem with that? You know, well, I don't see a problem with that at all. I genuinely agree.
Not representative of everyone's experiences with a game, especially since most people don't even play a game for long enough to become.
Or you get the you'll get an enemy that's like overly difficult to handle earlier on, and that's because you actually don't have a specific ability, or you don't have an item or a weapon yet that's actually specialized to deal with them.
Particularly,
I'm not opposed to that either.
Knowledgeable or good at it in the first place. Seriously, just look at the achievement or trophy stats for any given game, and you'll figure that out very quickly.
I'm sorry, what was the point that he made?
Since most represent high or even just above average level play is not representative of everyone's experiences with a game, especially since most people don't even play a game for long enough to become particularly knowledgeable or good at it in the first place.
Yo, without looking up a million videos.
Seriously, just look at the achievement or trophy stats for any given game, and you'll figure that out very quickly. Another comment I don't agree with is combat based around strict timing windows being fake difficulty. Frankly,
oh my god, that shit pisses me off so much. I do hate it when regular ass enemies are able to just power through all your shit. Again, it makes more sense for a boss to do that in a mini boss like enemy, but every single enemy, bro, that's that shit that pissed me off about fucking Liza P.
Because an opinion
artificial
I have
difficulty
held and seen many others hold is that fair difficulty is when strict gameplay aspects like this allow you to adapt and slowly make the game easier with practice. And fake difficulty is when you're forced to take hits you have no idea are coming until it's too late.
Yeah, or fake out attacks
completely ignores
where they're like, psych, here's an uppercut. It's like, that shit is really fucking, it's cringe, bro. They'll do fake out attacks all the fucking time.
Level and takes agency away from you. Typically, people don't enjoy it when an action game removes control. It feels contradictory to the idea that it's skill-based, at least in part. I called parrying and perfect dodges equalizers a minute ago, and that's another reason why people like them. They're reliable ways to get past offense. And why shouldn't you be allowed to get past offense once you put the time into practicing doing so?
That's fair. That's fair.
The idea of a game starting off difficult but getting easier with practice is the essence of a well-made action game.
That's fair. That's fair. I say you could relate that to games like even like Ratchet and Clank. The games usually start off pretty annoyingly difficult, and then you get weapons and abilities that just help with certain encounters, and they have certain areas that are locked off that you can't get to until later. That's pretty cool to me, because then you can go there later once you have certain items or abilities, and you can kind of like see like, oh, this makes sense. This is why it was so hard to get through this encounter. And now you have the skill set and you have the game knowledge to understand, well, I've fought plenty of these types of enemies now. They're nothing compared to who I'm fighting late game or some shit.
Lenient, but if you take
even if they scale them by level
and function of
to your level
or offense, because in some games that is the best defense.
I wholeheartedly agree. The best defense is a really fucking good offense.
Then you should be allowed to waltz through the game untouched. Now don't misunderstand, I can appreciate wanting to be kept on your toes in different ways as a game goes on.
Yeah, we're not
not
asking for the
against that
games
idea
to just
and
be
enjoy
easy.
games that do it too. But if a game clearly wants me to practice at a specific mechanic, then why should it regularly be putting me in situations where that practice doesn't matter? To many, that's just bad player feedback and reeks of inconsistency, which is arguably the biggest crime an action game can commit. It just doesn't feel good, and game feel is a very important aspect to action games, as nebulous as the concept might be sometimes. This also circles back around
no
to being another
freaking
part of
damage on this
looking
dragon.
and feeling cool. Being able to go back and clear out rooms of enemies and utterly crush bosses without getting so much as a scratch is a reward in itself. It feels cool as fuck. With all that said though, parrying can be implemented in good and bad ways. Good ways to implement parrying is to simply keep them as a high-risk, high-reward method of defense. Some people may resent Souls-like combat for being everywhere nowadays, but typically they do a decent job at keeping parries in that level of risk-reward balance, though admittedly the timing can be quite generous depending on the game. If you time a parry right, you can do a riposte
Not
for
anything
huge damage.
post
If you
anything
time it
post
wrong,
Sekiro, no.
You're gonna eat shit, and that's fine. It's tough enough that most people still prefer to just dodge. Another way of implementing parries in a good way is the Royal Guard method of Devil May Cry, where if you time a guard correctly, you can gain...
You can also technically parry by clashing your attack against an enemies, but that is extremely difficult to do consistently. Very, very few people have time to practice something like that. Anyway, here's badly practicing Royal Guard with Virgil. Again, made a great point, except Ninja Gaiden 4 has that mechanic in it, but they actually have a practice mode in it so you can get your timing down.
A big boost to your style meter and a boost to your devil trigger gauge. But if you mistime it, then you still block, but you spend devil trigger instead. This is less risky than just mistiming it and getting slammed, but it does make it clear that Royal Guard is something that requires practice. And if you don't and have a habit of hitting it early, you'll run out of DT, which will make blocking impossible until you have some back, and you can't activate Devil Trigger anymore, which is needed to regain health and survive difficult fights, etc. The consequences of fishing for that perfect block are more passive, but still big. At the end of the day though, you can still get through the game just fine without ever touching Royal Guard anyway.
Very
because
true.
the game has a ton of defensive options, such as having invincibility frames for every type of jump and dodge, which is a little fact that new players take a very long time to realize. Basically, the best ways to have a parry is to give them some sort of negative effect if you fail them, and ensure the player has other ways to reliably defend themselves if parries are too tough to pull off or don't cover every situation. Now, probably the biggest issue with parrying mechanics is that sometimes it's so strong that it becomes the only defensive maneuver people use. In the worst case, a game pretends it offers defensive options that are just as good, but parrying is the only thing that actually rewards you with big opportunities.
Yeah, he makes a good point
you feel
there.
Obligated to parry anyway. So players are now
And in those situations, it gets exhausting because that's the only thing you're doing.
ignoring other options entirely. Or to reframe it slightly, it's also pretty annoying when a game tries to convince you that parrying is totally non-essential and can be ignored if you want, but if you don't do it, you can get two-shotted by trash mobs. This can be a problem that makes a game very repetitive, and it can be invasive in a game where people don't expect the mechanic to pop up. For example, I do love the combat of Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. One thing it did though was bring back the perfect block mechanic from the previous game that lets you shave off damage from an enemy attack with the press of a button right before it connects, even though it's a turn-based game. It can be helpful for tougher fights and maybe even necessary for the most brutal ones, but thankfully the game does not expect you to perform it 100% of the time. Enemy
That's very
damage
fair.
is not balanced around the assumption that you'll master perfect blocking immediately after starting the game.
Right, bro.
If
You
it
be
was,
having some
it
enemies
would
that
be
just spam that
insufferable.
shit.
If a game
They be
has
spamming a
multiple
mechanic
enemy
so you
types
can
that
just
are
learn
vulnerable
some
to
shit.
different forms of counters, but parrying remains the absolute strongest option against all of them, then it feels mandatory. It can dilute every encounter into the same few steps every single time, but it still depends on the game. People who hate the prevalence of parrying might point the finger at Sekiro for making things worse, because its entire combat experience centers around deflecting and the posture.
That's me, bro.
gauge.
That's me.
But Sekiro's combat is also loved for that exact reason.
Because the whole game is that. It doesn't
Because
try to have any other thing. You can block, but it doesn't try to do anything else.
parrying is the weight-bearing mechanic for all combat, it offers a high level of consistency. If you can
And it makes every encounter abysmal if you get that shit down. And it feels so good and rewarding once you do.
nail this one mechanic down, then you can finish the whole game. Of course, it's not the only thing you'll be doing. You will still dodge, use prosthetics, and Makiri counters, but if you can deflect, then you can do those things too. What some people might bemoan as homogeneity in some games is simply considered reliability to others. Now, you could make the argument that maybe you should be punished a little bit more for missing a deflection in Sekiro, but that's a bit of a slippery slope.
Nah,
Because
you're punished
deflecting is
pretty.
such a core element of the game.
You're
that
punished
making it more
pretty
punishing
well.
Might be like adding more punishment to aiming down sights in a military shooter. It's something you're expected to do in basically every fight, so it would be giving mixed messages if you're kicked in the balls for doing it. Again, those
You lose a
contradictory
lot of
signals
health.
don't feel very good.
You lose a lot of
A
health in
balance is
Sekiro for
definitely
missing them.
required. To summarize everything, I know the heavy presence of Soulslikes is sometimes annoying, especially when there's other types of action games that suffer from a lack of
God, I really gotta
releases.
play through Sekiro
Seeing
again.
a
I
promising
only played through
action
it
game
once or
only to
twice
find out it's
when the game first
another
came out.
Soulslike might be frustrating.
Haven't touched that
But
shit
pure
since.
action games are just really difficult to get right. I absolutely do wish we got more Ninja
Demon of
Gaiden
Hatred,
and
that
Devil
shit
May Cry
fucking
clones,
tilted me,
yes.
dog.
But if you're going to make games like those, you need serious dedication and, ideally, previous experience too. There's some interesting upcoming games from Chinese and
Or just
indie
hire
developers,
help.
which is great, and I'm keeping my eye on them. But even then, it's no guarantee
There are tons of people out there that are passionate for this stuff. Just hire the help.
Because they're just simpler at a mechanical level. They're popular because they rest in a Goldilocks zone of high challenge, high gratification, high variety, and low complexity. It's not a surprise that any studio would want to make one. And in regard to parrying, yes, there's some poor implementation of the mechanic, but it's popular for a reason too. Players feel cool for performing them, and they add a
God, this
protective
shit's
layer
so
of
cool.
consistency so that anyone playing the game knows they have a strong defensive option to use when they need to. Though it usually requires some practice, and it should, because a defensive mechanic so strong shouldn't be so brainless. Parrying can make a game boring if it ends up being the only worthwhile defensive maneuver in the game, but some people enjoy that reliability too.
Just feel like people are so focused way more on the parrying and dodging than they are on the actual combat in an action game. And that's the problem. The focus needs to be on the action in an action game.
That one mechanic that anchors the entire experience, keeps it focused, and is always useful. It just comes down to implementation.
Like, yeah, action games can feel overwhelming because you're not learning everything. Like, well, you are learning everything all at once, and then you're also learning new skills on top of that. But dog, once you got that shit down, that shit feels so rewarding. It feels so satisfying to just jump up on a game that you know you've been practicing on just to just get some style points in that
and
shit.
what other mechanics are surrounding it. Not every game mechanic trend is some grand conspiracy to create homogeneity. Sometimes these trends persist because they sit in that small but important spot where both developers and players enjoy that thing, because it's easy to implement for the former and satisfying to use for the latter. Yeah, it can get tiring if you lose interest, or if you never cared for it at all, but that's just the nature of every trend. Back in 2005, Resident Evil 4 and God of War came out only 2 months apart from each other, and that was apparently enough to make everyone have to deal with 10 years of QTEs in action games.
Oh my god, bro. Resident Evil 4. Was it? No. God of War had lots of QTEs. Was it? No. Resident Evil 4 did.
Sometimes they were implemented thoughtfully, and sometimes they were intrusive and annoying and used as an obvious and poor
But that's
attempt.
because, again, Resident Evil 4 was this happens all the time. If a game sells really well, investors then think that they need to copy and mimic every single mechanic of that game instead of just looking at what people are actually praising it for. Nobody was really sitting there praising it for its QTEs. They were praising it for the story and its change in camera direction.
To mask a lack of real depth. This shit just happens.
And QTEs can be fun. They can be fun. It depends on the
Before I
game.
close the video, please consider checking out my merch store. As of right now, I have 2 shirt designs, a sliced skull. And
Bro,
a
shout out to
tribute
this
Hiro
video, man. Shout out to this channel.
creator of the
Definitely
Final Fantasy
support him.
series.
Support him.
I also have a beanie with my logo embroidered on it.
Let's see.
Great
Is he
for the
gonna say
cold
any
weather.
more?
Both shirt designs are available in lightweight fabric and heavyweight cotton. I've already received samples.
Throwing him a
of everything for
subscribe,
quality
subscription.
checking, and I can confirm they
Check
look
his
great
videos
in
out.
person. If you're interested, visit mildconviction.com or check the store tab of
Right.
my YouTube
Right.
channel
Do that.
page.
Do that.
This concludes my thoughts on Soulslikes taking over the action genre and the parry problem.
Do
Thank
that.
you for watching, and I'll see you around.
Thank you for putting out a banger video, bro. All right, got to go to the next one because, again, I am on a time crunch.
Lights down low, but spirits so high. Game controller in hand, ready to fly. The night's a playground where time stands still. In this cozy nook, let's get our thrill. Pencils shining bright in the midnight glow. Leveling up in a world we know. Laughing together as the hours drift by. In this gaming sanctuary we touch the sky.